guys, this is AC Lockyer, and this is Building the Lifestyle Business presented by SoftWash Systems. And this week, we're going to the Lone Star State, that state being Texas. It is the home state of my beautiful wife, the Queen, Miss Karen, and also the college that we went to, Abilene Christian University. But it's also the home to Howard Partridge and Phenomenal Products, and it's where I met this guy, Jim Steinmark. And I remember having that conversation sitting next to the pool there in Houston with you, what seems like many moons ago now. Yeah. And here you are in the soft washing business. And so introduce yourself, name your company, where you're from, what service area you're doing, and then tell us about Jim. Give us some background.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on your podcast. I really appreciate joining you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a while. I would say it's probably seven and a half, maybe 8 years ago that we met.
Yeah, it was, I started with Howard, I believe it was back in 2016. So it was about 2017. So it's about 7 years.
Yeah. So it's a long time ago, and it's been great ever since. And I really appreciate our friendship. So,
well, thank you
very much. So my name is, as Jim, as you said, I was raised in an Air Force family. My dad was in the Air Force, so I've lived all over the world. I claim Hawaii as home because that's where I grew up. That's where I went to school and spent a lot of my time. I think you've seen my Happy Aloha Friday posts that I put out every Friday. It's just something that's, innate within my character.
Part of you. Yeah.
That's right. That's what I do. So, I like to share aloha with people. A lot of people think aloha just means love, or it means hello or goodbye. But, it's really a culture, and a culture of being a good citizen of wherever you are. It doesn't have to be in Hawaii. It can be in Dallas, Texas, like where I am. I've got 4 children. I've got actually 3 children, 4 grandchildren. I've got a son that's 42 years old. I've got a daughter that's 38 years old, and I've got a daughter that's 24 years old.
Wow.
My son lives in Charleston, married, and has an almost 2-year-old little boy. My daughter, my middle daughter, she lives in Mississippi. She's married and has 3 children. And my youngest daughter just got married and moved to Alaska.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. They went to school at OU. They dated 3 of the 4 years that they went. He's in the ROTC, got his commission, and now he's stationed in Alaska.
So it's not a forever thing in Alaska.
No, but it's really something though. People that go to Alaska, and they're outdoor people. He's from Seattle, and his dad flies for Alaska Airlines, so they get to see them quite a bit, and then have benefits, obviously, of flying around. But of the military people that I know that got stationed there, I'd say probably 80%, if not more, re-up for another tour because they enjoy it and love it so much.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. So you being a Florida, Texas boy, then, it's probably not as appealing for you, but it's absolutely gorgeous. It's worth a visit.
Yeah, I have not made it up to Alaska yet. We do have a licensed affiliate up there, and I'm sure he's going to need a visit one day.
Same with the one in Hawaii too.
Yeah. And so, we just have to get unbusy enough to be able to reach some of these, further locations. And I always seem to be flying 8 to 9 hours east of here over to Europe and London, running those companies over there. But I need to fly that 8 to 9 hours west as well sometime. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy doing? I mean, you probably are going to say I enjoy business and working with my business because you're a sick individual like me. But I mean, what hobbies do you have?
I like to say I'm a recovering triathlete.
Okay.
I've done an Ironman, 2 half Ironmans, and a whole bunch of Olympic and sprint triathlons. Oh, wow. I actually, funny enough, I got into doing triathlons because I was a marathon runner, and I've run 28 marathons, not including the one that's in the Ironman. So I guess technically 29 marathons. And I've had some knee surgeries. So my physical therapist said to me, well, you need to start laying off the triathlon or off of the marathons and start doing some cross training. So
Right.
swimming or biking or whatever. So that's what I started doing, was doing some cross training, but I missed the competitiveness of being in the training mode for marathon running. So that's when I was introduced to the sport of triathlons. And here we go, running half marathons and marathons again, tacking on a run, a 2-mile swim and a 112-mile bike ride.
Wow.
So, yeah, but I don't do those anymore. 63 years old is just a little too much for me because it requires so much time. So I spend my time mostly walking and hiking. I do have a bike that I ride, a mountain bike. So I do technical trails. But really what my passion is working with animal rescue, particularly dog and Weimaraner rescue. I've been on the board of directors and past president of the Weimaraner Rescue of Texas. I started the New England Weimaraner Rescue when I lived in New Hampshire.
Yep.
So that's really a big part of my heart is dog rescue. And
and it makes such sense because those Weimaraner puppies, they're blue and they got blue eyes and they're cute and everything else. And then they go, and they turn into dogs and they're more than people can handle. So they want to get rid of them. And, it's tragic. They don't plan for, those, and they're not big like a Great Pyrenees or something like that, but they're big dogs.
Yeah, they can be anywhere between 60 and 100 plus pounds.
Yeah. They're similar to like a black lab and stuff like that. Yeah,
very
size.
similar.
Yeah.
And they kind of had a season. Weimaraners had a season like Dalmatians had it.
Popularity.
On Dalmatians, and then Marley, then you had the Golden Retriever Yellow Lab phase that everybody went through. But you're right, with the Weimaraners, they look at the big floppy ears and the big blue eyes, and they're just so cute, but they're so intelligent and need a lot of exercise because they have a lot of energy, and people can manage them. They get them as apartment dogs, and they are not apartment dogs.
Yeah, indoor apartment dogs. Yeah, no, not going to happen. Yeah, get a Shih Tzu.
Yeah,
exactly.
Something.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I see. That's what I love about these podcasts. I didn't know that about you, and so that's very, very cool. That's very cool. Yeah. And so you are in the Metroplex, which is a great market, and then you're also in the East Texas market. I'm sure you'll get into sharing that here in a moment. But the Metroplex is huge. I mean, I grew up in Miami, Florida, and then Orlando. I'm in Florida. I'm used to big cities and all. And I go to the Metroplex, and all I have to do is just drive around the Metroplex for one day. And I'm like, I will never live here because the traffic and the people speeding. I mean, out in the country, I remember the day back in Texas where you'd be driving down one of the roads in Texas and you'd want to be going faster than the person in front of you. And they would realize that and they go, oh, let me pull off on the shoulder so that you can pass me. Not in Dallas, Fort Worth. No, it's like NASCAR. It's unbelievable.
You're right.
So tell people exactly where you are there in the Metroplex.
So I'm actually in Dallas. Our new shop is in Louisville, which is a little bit north of Dallas, about 10 minutes north of Dallas. People are starting to hear about like Frisco, Texas, because of the PGA moving there. Toyota headquarters is there. So it's rapidly becoming popular in the Frisco, area. And we're in Louisville, which is about 2 miles south of Frisco. And I live about 15 minutes from our shop. And we serve the entire Metroplex. So we can go all the way over to like Weatherford. And we can go over to Terrell. We can go up to Sherman, which is almost on the Oklahoma border. And then we can go down to Waxahachie and Duncanville in that area. So it's about from our jump off point, it can be up to an hour drive to a job.
Oh, sure.
We work that into our plan.
Yeah. So, as you know, I went to Abilene Christian University out there in Abilene, Texas. And so dated a girl in the Metroplex for a little while, and that was actually the girl that got me to go out to Texas to go to college. She's not the one I ended up marrying. So, Laura Ruckman, if you're listening to this podcast, thank you very much. You got me to Texas and helped me to meet my future wife. So,
Right.
But anyhow, so I'm real familiar with the Metroplex. Of course, my wife's brother lives there, and he's a school principal, and his wife is a high school, or it's not high school, but it's a school principal. And they're over in HEB area, kind of smack dab in the middle. Yep. And it's funny because your market out there. When I got summarily kicked out of Abilene Christian University, we would still go back because my wife lives out in Midland. Her family lives out in Midland, Texas. And we would go back by to still see our friends that were still in college there in Abilene. We would drive through the Metroplex. Nothing was dirty out there 30, 35 years ago. And little by little, there is such a thing as global warming. I don't think cow farts and gas-powered engines are causing it. I think, the Earth is on a cyclical orbit, and, there's times of warming, there's times of cooling. We've been in ice ages and warming trends and stuff like that. We're in a warming trend now. And the Metroplex, as they, dam up more rivers and create more lakes, creates more humidity. And I've just watched it explode there, just really get dirty kind of fast. And where it wasn't like that at all 30, 35 years ago. And, even probably in the 7 years you've been doing this business, well, you haven't been doing it 7 years. We met 7 years ago, but you've been doing it at least 5, 6 years now, 5 years or so. Right. You've probably seen it progressively even get worse there in the Metroplex.
Well, and also when you're in the business, you're more in tune.
Yeah, aware.
Stuff. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And matter of fact, I hired a salesperson a few months ago. And one day she called me up. She said, "Jim, thanks very much." And I said, "You're welcome. We're glad to have you on board." No. That's not what I mean. Every stupid building I go by, I'm looking at it and seeing how dirty it is and how we can get it clean for them.
Right. Yeah.
You don't notice how, because I think I told you this story when I first got in, and you asked me, well, what's going to be your focus? And I said, well, I know like in the Northwest and Pete and those guys, they're all about the moss and the roof, algae and lichens and stuff. Right. Florida, definitely the same thing in the Southeast. But, we just don't really have a lot of roofs that get dirty, and we have hailstorms every 2 or 3 years. So people replace their roofs. Right. So I'm not even going to focus on that. I'm just going to focus on cleaning stucco and cleaning stone on the outside of their houses, because it's a sensitive surface and it needs to be cleaned. Well, I'm since taking back those words, now we do a lot of slate roof cleaning because people want to have their roofs clean. It's slate. And it's really, really, really expensive. It's like $5,000 a square or more to replace a slate roof.
Yeah, it's like you look at them and say, hey, if I told you I could clean your roof for 0.1% of its value, would that interest you? And they're like, oh yeah, and 0.1% still $15,000.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
and people want it clean, but they don't want people up there with a power washer
walking all over it. Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing, right? So, we do a lot of metal roofs. We do a lot of slate roofs. We're starting to pick up a little bit more on barrel tile roofs. It's like a cycle we go through.
Right.
But one of the things that we've added to our business is a SoftWash cleaning drone. Mm-hmm. That actually changes our posture because we go after the luxury residential demographics. That's what we go after, right? I mean, that story. People understand the maintenance, the aspect of maintenance. They're the same people that hire a landscaper to rip out the June flowers because it's July now. I can't have June flowers in July, so we got to rip them out, put new ones in. Same people that have a maid in their house 3 times a week. So they understand the value of maintaining the investment that they have in these multi-million dollars. Yeah. So that's what we do. We go in, do initial cleaning, and then we start building out contracts that we're in there on their property monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually. So the roof cleaning has really changed my view on what we do in our business. We're actually going to start a third company Patriot Drone Wash. So we're working on getting that stood up right now. We're going to have the drone company separate from Patriot SoftWash and Poseidon Power Washing. So we'll have a triad of companies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because there is different liability to mitigate and different training and separating your insurances and everything else. So that's probably a very, very wise decision. So, and also too, there's other people around you that could probably use your services that don't want to pony up and spend the additional money for the drone. They're not big enough to have a dedicated person or a person with a license. So you could probably go around and clean for other companies too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have actually 5 scheduled jobs right now that are not for our company, but for their company.
Right. No, that's good. That's good. So, okay. So, you've got the military family background and all. And when I met you at the Howard Partridge Inner Circle conferences, you didn't strike me as an outdoor cleaning kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? And so, you're very business, very, very mature, very responsible, look like you would be a business leader. Somebody would own a business. But, sometimes you look at people and you go, cleaning, really? Yeah. Are you sure you want to do this? You have to be outside. And, well, I'm going to run the business. I get that, but you're going to have to do it for a while because you're going to know how to do it and be able to train people. And, you got to know if people are pulling the wool over your eyes or not, stuff like that. So are you sure you want one? Have you ever smelled bleach? And so, why did you, because I could see you being entrepreneurial, and you've probably been one of these people that's been entrepreneurial your whole life. And I met you at a business owners conference. So that was pretty apparent. But why cleaning? Why did you want to get into cleaning? Do you have a heritage in cleaning at all?
No. So I do have an entrepreneur bone. My dad was in the military, like I said. Yeah. So he's never owned a company, never run a company. Right. I didn't have that luxury like you did growing up and learning the ups and downs with that. It was always, and then even when my dad retired from the military, which I'd already moved out, but he was a CEO of healthcare systems. So he stayed in the corporate world. Right. I joined the military out of high school, got my commission after I went to college. And then I got out of the military and I was in the reserves. And
what branch of service were you in?
I was in the Air Force.
Air Force. Okay, good. That's my family's background. I never got to serve. You've probably heard that story, but thank you for your service. I wanted to pause and thank you for that.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was my honor. So then when I got out of the military, then I stayed in the reserves to retire. And then I got into the corporate world in IT. I have an electrical engineering degree. And then I got my MBA. But the whole time I was a kid, my mom tells a story that when I was in second grade, I would go to the pencil machine in the hallway and put my nickel in there and get my 5 pencils out of the machine. And then I would put them in my book bag. And this was my nickel my mom gave me for milk. So then I would put it in my bag. And then there would be a kid in the class that didn't have a pencil. And they would get in trouble for not being prepared and have a pencil. Well, guess what?
That's
Jim's
right.
Prepared for you. So I sold for a nickel. So I was making money back then. I had a TV guide route because I was not old enough to have a paper route. That's right. In the day they had the little magazine called TV Guide. Then I had a paper route. I used to take kids' bicycles, tear them apart, paint them, rebuild them or customize them. So I've always had that spirit to build. When I got laid off from my last corporate job, I was an executive vice president for international strategy in an airline company. And unfortunately, the way the world is today, when you're 60 plus years old or approaching 60, they don't want to hire you into another job like that because there's MBA kids that are coming out of school that can do the same job for half the price. So I knew I wanted to do something. I looked at franchises. I felt that I was going to be an employee for somebody else and take all the risks. So I stayed out of that. Howard's a friend of mine. Tom Ziegler's a friend of mine. So I went to a couple of Howard's events, and the one you and I met in Houston, I had sat back at a Destined Dream retreat before the Houston one. And I sat back and I watched all these people, learned about them, who they were, what they did. And the people that seemed to have the most fun and the most collegial were people that did oriental rug cleaning,
Right.
floor restoration, window cleaning, or building cleaning. And I said, man, okay, I got to investigate this a little bit more.
Right.
So then in Houston is when I met you. I'd already started researching you after I talked to Howard. And then that's why I wanted to sit down and talk about seriously, what does the money look like? What is the entry? How do I get on the right track? And that's how it started.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. And so, okay, so you found SoftWash systems that way. Oh, and I did want to pop a joke here. It's a good thing you have an electrical engineering background, because working with those drones,
Yeah.
you got to repair things and fix things, and did you see the post on Facebook? And I think I'm warming up to the drones because it does really help in areas that you just can't get lifts in and stuff like that. And so I'm warming up to them. But one of the guys that's actually one of our clients, he has 4 drones, and he posted on Facebook pictures of all 4 drones broken. Because he's got a pretty good sized drone washing business and everything else. And he's like, hey, listen, drone washing, it's great and all, but you need to be prepared for the fact that when they break, it costs a lot of money to fix them. And sometimes you have to send them off, and you might be weeks without your drone. So that's why I've bought several drones. And he says, I just find myself in this situation that all 4 of my drones are broke right now. And I just wanted to commiserate with everybody online. And because it's not just plumbing anymore. It's not, it's electronics, it's batteries, it's wires, it's turbine motors and everything else. And they are modular and you can fix them and stuff like that. But it takes a different skill set and understanding to work on the drones. So it's a good thing you have an electrical engineering degree, because I'm sure it's come in handy.
Yeah. And in particular, my specialty was RF, radio frequency.
Oh, so, because you're flying these things. So there you go.
That was my study when I went to school. And there is a lot of communication, because you got the GPS system, you got the computer that's on board, then it's got a compass, then it's got communication back and forth to the handheld device. The computer is taking 6 different motors and spinning them at different rates to get what it's being told to do.
Yeah.
So it's extremely complex. And one of the things that I tell people, they said, well, what's the deal with the drone? I said, really, it's just an extension of my wand.
Right.
But it's complex and very expensive.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of warming up to them, because, when somebody turns around and buys a $60,000 drone, my $50,000 system doesn't seem that much anymore.
I still have to have that too.
Yeah, because you still have to have that. All the drone is an extension of your wand. It's you still have to mix and spray the chemical. So,
yep.
Yeah, just really, really interesting. So, okay, so you have no cleaning background. You got into cleaning because you noticed that cleaners are a jovial, carefree, fun kind of group of people. And I guess I never really thought about it that way before, but yeah, especially carpet cleaners and I think the pressure washing people are a little more jaded and salty than the carpet cleaning world. But definitely carpet cleaners are definitely that way. And so you were attracted to that. And that kind of keys into, if you're building a business, you want to have a certain lifestyle, you look at the lifestyle of the other people and you go, well, I want their lifestyle. So I should probably look at what business they're doing. And because you don't want to get a business that's going to drive you crazy or make you miserable. And so it took you, I remember having that first meeting, and it took you a little while to commit, make a decision, and get into soft washing. Talk about, so people understand the path a little bit, because every person is different that gets into this business. Talk a little bit about that journey and that decision-making process.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm a high D, so anybody that understands the DISC model, understands that, D is somebody that has to be hyper analytical about everything that's done. It's got to be in a, task oriented. We've got to have Gantt charts. We got to have models with certain levers.
So you must be a DC.
I actually am not. I'm a DI.
Oh, you're a DI, really? Okay. Because you were saying a lot of C things there.
Yeah, but I make decisions from a D perspective.
Yes.
And then I let I take over. So I had a friend of mine finally just said, and you remember, I'm sure, I would send you emails all the time. Okay, here's my latest model. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, that's still the same as that you sent to me.
Yeah.
Finally, I had somebody.
I'm like, crap or get off the pot.
Well, that's what she said. You just got to pull the trigger, dude. Just make it happen. So that's when, I just did discover SoftWash. I spent some time with Craig and some time with Joe and really just beat their brains into jelly just so that I felt comfortable, because I had not invested that kind of money before. I was used to being a six-figure executive in a corporation and the thing that I always say is when you're a business owner, you can have an MBA and it doesn't matter because MBA is teaching you how to be a corporate officer or a corporate executive and how to manage a comptroller, a CFO, an HR department or whatever. You don't have those resources when you're an entrepreneur. I'm it. So really trying to step out there and, faith had a lot to do with it. I drive my companies, with a kingdom mind, really trying to serve him and making sure all my folks are taken care of, whether they're believers or not. I still treat them, the way that they need to be treated with respect. So I just, out of faith, just stepped out there and I said, okay, I'm going to be there in December of 2019 to pick up my first skid. And I did, I had my truck wrapped. So I flew in, had not seen my truck, had not seen my skid, had never been on a job other than Discover SoftWash when we did a little house out there on the bay. That was it. Made a huge investment and just drove it home.
In December of 2019. And were you actually at SoftWashapalooza 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And so we closed SoftWashapalooza 2020 with having an experts panel. And so Howard Partridge was on the stage, and Howard Partridge, everybody says, well, what do you think 2020 is going to be like? What kind of year are we going to have? It's going to be a presidential election year and all this talk. And Howard says, well, the people I've been talking to and the people that I know that are kind of in the know and all don't know what's going to happen, but they say something major this year is going to happen that is going to be world altering. We don't know what it is. It's probably going to impact the economy, but we have bigger things than the presidential election to worry about. And of course, what happens the 1st of March 2 months after you have picked up your brand new truck?
COVID. Yep. That was fun.
Because you're not an established company. I mean, for those of us that were established companies, we had clients and they're home and they got, they want to have their houses clean. They have disposable income and people got busy, but nobody knows who Patriot SoftWash is. And so you had to scrape things together that first year. Tell me about that first year.
Yeah, boy, I tell you what, that was a struggle. I had a personal struggle too that happened a month before I picked up my skid. And I won't go into that, but that was life altering and financially a killer. So I had to make it, AC. I had no choice but to make it. So, I tapped in as hard as I could to everybody in the network, to you. And, you had some great points on, hey, let's try this. Let's do this. Doing the sanitizing. That's what really got me into a little bit of cash, a little bit. So I was going to hotels, apartments, private schools, municipal buildings, hospitals, cleaning common areas and sanitizing playgrounds, break areas. People were staying in hotels, but they still had to go out and barbecue or let their in the playground. So that's where my pivot started. But what really helped me, and we did a pretty good amount on 2020. 2021, we did 2.5x what we did in 2020.
Right.
And what I found out was my directed clientele have always been the same. High net worth, multi-million dollar homes.
Mm-hmm.
These are the same people that would go to Barbados for 2 months. But they can't go to Barbados.
Yeah.
Or they can't go to Monaco, or they can't go to Hawaii. They're stuck at home. So they're sitting around in their back porch saying, we didn't realize how small this is, how dirty this is. We need to do something. So I tapped into that market, got in with some concierge property managers, some custom home builders that were going and doing renovations, remodeling and additions. They wanted their old part of their house to look as clean and new as the new part that they're having built. And that's what sustained me. And I made it work.
Yeah, for sure. Those were trying and tough times. So along the way, and you've got an interesting story, and I'm just kind of pushing your timeline and going through this because you've had an interesting timeline. You get your business up and going, and we get past COVID, and as you get in that second year, always, especially the third year, you start to get the referral business. You start to get the customers already know you. Your name's been built up. Things do start to get easier, start to flow on their own. You discover the drone thing. We talked about the drone thing a little bit, but talk about a little bit about your mindset, because now you're, the drones a couple of years ago were like 30 grand. They've gone up like wowzer significantly. Now they've almost doubled in price, and they've gotten bigger and more technical and more capable. And as they got bigger and more technical and capable, the prices have gone up. But you discovered the drone thing and you buy into that. Tell me about that process. How did you discover it? Why did you want to do it? And how did that acquisition and bringing that into your company go?
So I met a guy who is from Canada, who does washing, is no longer affiliated with us, but he started looking at it, and he went down to Houston to do a review of a guy who had a drone down there. I mean, this was 3 years ago, so it was in its infancy, really.
Right.
And that's amazing to say that, isn't it? But that technology has just exploded. So there's a guy in Houston, a SoftWash company, that bought a drone, and he was going to do roofs with a drone. Well, in Houston, it didn't really work because there are too many trees.
Right.
I couldn't fly the drone for clearance. He couldn't get GPS signals, a whole myriad. And he just basically tried it for a little while, only dipped like a little toe into the pool and said, "Ooh, that's too cold for me. I'm out."
Right.
The guy, I had lunch with a Canadian guy who went down there to look at it, and he started telling me about it. And I was already trying to figure out how to increase my differentiation within the metro.
Yes.
And I saw a lot of mid-rise office buildings, mid-rise meaning 3 to 6 or 7 stories, that needed to be cleaned. Black algae loves limestone. A lot of our tip-up walls are all made with concrete. They're finished with stucco. It's prime for black algae growth. But in order to clean those, you either have to rappel off the roof, or you have to get an articulated boom lift, which a lot of places you can't do that.
Doesn't have the footprint.
Right. So trying to figure it out, tried to do the extension pole. Extension pole on a ladder is too dangerous.
Right.
Nix that immediately. So I started doing some more research and talking to the manufacturers. And that's where I came up with, how do I connect my truck to the drone and fly on mid-rise? So office parks, hospitals, hotels, and apartments. So that's what I originally was going after, to increase my business footprint, to take the seasonality out of the residential business. My residential business is pretty good. It's not transactional. It's relationship based. I get a lot of repeat customers. People are now going on contracts, but at that time it was not. So I wanted something to flatten the curve a little bit, to use the COVID term at the time.
Right.
So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. And when I brought it in, I started thinking, you know what, that slate roof that's on essentially the 4th floor of a high custom home built roof
with a 10-12 pitch.
Easy.
Yeah.
I said,
That you're not going to get on.
Right. Yeah. So now I'm leveraging it for those top of roofs. I've got 3 roof cleanings for my drones, my drone company in the next 2 weeks. So a combination of that and ground with a pole. I don't do the whole roof with it. There's no need to.
Right.
I just do the high parts of it and do the rest from the ground.
Yep. For sure. Yeah. And it's one of the things that we actually are making all of our SoftWash system skids drone capable right out of the factory now. We just made that change. And so we've oofed up the power on the 6X head now, and gives you that capability to do that. But because it does, when I first saw the drones, it was always videos of them cleaning the same 2,500 square foot ranch home, going back and forth on the roof. And I'm like, I already using a drone to clean that. I can clean that from the ground with my wand. This is stupid. Exactly. But then you go to these McMansions that are 40, 45 feet at their top, and they're all broken up, and you've got gables that are hidden by gables because the cut level on the roof is so complex, because it's a beautiful roof. I mean, these roofs on these McMansions are $500,000 roofs.
Oh yeah.
Most of these roofs cost more than the houses most of our cleaners are living in. Oh, and so, and because they're, a lot of people just don't realize it. I'm sure it's similar in Texas because Texas law is similar to Florida law. But here in Florida, if you ever file for bankruptcy, you don't lose your house through bankruptcy. So a lot of people, when they build a house here in Florida, they build it, especially if they're wealthy, they build it exorbitant. They're looking at it going, how can I put more money into it? How can I put more money into it? I'm not going to put a shingle roof on it. I'm going to put a tile roof on it. Oh, heck, tile roof isn't going to be as expensive enough. What's more expensive? Well, you can get imported porcelain glazed tiles from Italy. Okay, Let me look at the bill on that. That's not expensive enough. What's the most expensive roof you can put on a house? Well, Pennsylvania blue slate quarried from the armpit of a virgin. They just come up with this stuff that you're just like, what? To run up the dollar amount on these houses, and these houses are, anymore, we're not doing $1,500,000 houses or $2 million houses or $3 million houses. We're doing 15, 18, 20, $25 million houses. We had one of our California license affiliates last year did a single residential. Now, it was a little bit of a compound. It was a big house with a couple smaller houses and stuff like that. But it was a residential job, single residential job, $36,000. And it's like, and when you looked at the roof, you're like, yeah, you need a drone to clean that. There's just no other way around it. Why? You could use a lift, but there's too much landscaping and everything. You're going to screw up the pavers. You're going to screw up the grass. You're going to screw up the landscaping. You got to use the drone. And so kind of in our network, you're kind of known as the drone guy because you're the guy that came in and adopted the technology early on. And I think that's part of the reason why you're starting your drone exclusive company, because you're doing some jobs for some of our licensed affiliates in the network. And, you're piecing yourself out on that and your team out on that. So you get into this drone technology and everything, and the next opportunity comes to you. And I thought you were badass crazy, just to be honest with you.
Really?
This next opportunity comes to you, and that opportunity was?
Buying Poseidon Power Washing.
Yeah, buying out one of our other licensed affiliates, Poseidon Power Wash, there in East Texas. I'm like, you do realize from where you live, that's an 1.5 to 2 hour drive, Are you ready to be running a business long distance? And that's where I thought you were crazy because, and this podcast is called Building a Lifestyle Business. I thought this was going to really impact your lifestyle. So let's talk about that. Did it impact your lifestyle, and how has been this transition?
It has definitely impacted my lifestyle in a positive way.
Okay.
The advantage of buying, so several advantages. Mm-hmm. It was definitely a God thing. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Know whom you know.
Prince of a guy. Awesome guy.
Absolutely. Just a great, great, great guy. He was my coach and mentor for a very long time.
Yeah.
Craig was who I went through Discover with. He was my instructor. He's no longer doing the biz anymore. Mm-hmm. But Joe was, my card trainer. He's the one that got me signed off to be certified. So I learned so much from him. Plus, he, like you said, he's just a perfect man.
Right.
Good family man, good businessman. So one day he calls me up and he said, "Can you bring your drone over? I've got this big building. I'd like for you to come over and clean it." Okay. So we got to know each other even more. And then I watched what he was doing in his business, and he was starting to transition away from residential into straight commercial, into a further niche of just being medical billing.
Right. Yes. So he was super niching for sure.
Absolutely. And he loved it.
Yeah.
He said, I don't want to deal with soccer moms. I don't want to deal with replace flowers every other day.
Personalities. Yeah.
Right. So that's what he went to. And I said, that's cool. So there were a couple of jobs. He called me over. Hey, I need some extra manpower. If you're not doing anything, or he would throw me a couple of jobs that he picked up over here that he would just give to me.
Right.
Well, one day he called me. He said, "Look, I'm going to sell my company, but I have this contract that I need to keep fulfilling. I just signed it again. I just upped it. I've had it for 5 years. I just re-signed for 3 more. But I'm going to sell my company. Can you keep the contract for me, keep it running while I find a buyer?" I said, "Sure." So we talked. I went over a couple of times, did some of the jobs. And he said, "I had 2 different offers, didn't like the person, or I didn't like the offer. It fell through." And I said, "Well, maybe you and I could work something out." He said, "Okay." So we sat down, the story of the bar napkin, sitting down, writing out some stuff on a napkin in a restaurant. And that's how we closed the deal on a handshake. And I bought his company with an existing commercial contract. 2 things. It really helped me because I didn't have to worry about beating the pavement right away. And secondly, it helped me subsidize when Patriot was going through a downtime.
Right. And that's one of the things, and you and I have talked about this when you called me to talk about this. I understood the economics of the decision, but I also understood how much time it was going to take for you to make this happen. And I, if you remember, we had the conversation about the pest control industry, and the way the pest control industry works is pest control owner starts a pest control company. They grow it to the point where it's hard to find people. It's hard to assemble a huge sales force and everything else. So it becomes the easiest way to grow the company is to go and acquire other small to mid-sized pest control companies. And then sometimes along the way, your team members or employees leave and violate their non-compete agreement and everything else and go, "Screw it, I'm going to put it to the man. I'm going to go out and start my own pest control company. I can do it better than them. The guy that I'm working for is an idiot," and everything else. And they go out with a vengeance and something to prove and a whole lot of, chutzpah. And they go out, they start a pest control company and they grow it up to $1 million, $1.5 million. And they go, "This sucks. I'm working my brains out. I just want to sell my pest control company." And who buys it? Their old boss.
Yeah.
And they sell it to their old boss and they sign a 1-year contract to come in and help them transition the customers and everything else. They get a bunch of money. Okay. And by the time they pay their taxes and do everything else, they basically get a 2 to 3 year vacation. And guess what they have to do again? They have to go out and start another company. What do? They start another pest control company, pissed off at the world and everything else with a lot of chutzpah. They build it up to $1.5 million. And guess what happens? And acquisition is the way the pest control industry proliferates and grows so much. It's like you're in Texas, you're in the Bible Belt. So you know about the Church of Christ. Okay. Not the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, but the Church of Christ, no instrumental music, don't drink, don't dance, Church of Christ. That's my heritage, is the old mainline Church of Christ. And so the Church of Christ was the fastest growing church movement in the United States back in the 60s. Okay. The fastest growing. And you want to know the dirty little secret as to why they were the fastest growing church group or church movement in the entire United States back in the 60s? It's because they all couldn't get along with each other. And church would grow up to about 300, 350 people. They'd get in a fight and split and start 2 new churches. and they grow up to about 350 people. They get in a fight and split and start two new churches. Yeah. And that cellular division is what grew the church. And so acquisition, what you're doing with, buying Joe's company, allowed you to take on a piece of business that would have taken you years to develop or grow your company by yourself that way. So it was a brilliant move if you have the chutzpah and cojones to then bring it in and align the companies and do all the work you have to do to be able to run that thing. And
and that's really what I'm doing. I've so far I've kept the name because it's got name recognition.
Yeah.
There's also a Patriot branded truck that services that area. Right. So they're wearing Poseidon gear.
But little by little, people are warming up to it.
Exactly. And so they'll call Patriot, they'll call Poseidon. But the great thing about that is I have some of my demographic, my customers, my avatar customers who have lake houses over in East Texas.
Yeah.
So Joe used to clean those, but nobody cleaned their house over here in Dallas. Now I'm cross-populating with the same demographics. So that's a fantastic thing. That's
Lake Cyprus, Lake Palestine, all of those over there. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
And the other great thing about it is all of my sunk costs at my marketing, my admin, my payroll, my bookkeeper, they're all the same. So I'm not doubling up on that. So I'm actually increasing the ability of my bottom line to be higher. So I can invest more.
You're centralizing
things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're rounding around the corner here, and we're getting to the end of this. And so I think this has been a good journey. And I have a normal path I like to take on this, but you have a very unique timeline. So I wanted to go through this timeline. So looking back now, 2017 forward, your decision to get into SoftWash Systems, becoming a licensed affiliate and everything else. If somebody else was looking at this opportunity, what would you tell them?
SoftWash Systems, what SoftWash Systems and what the Academy and Disruptor offered are fantastic for somebody looking to get right into the business. That was the great thing for me, was more or less turnkey. Training was there, the equipment was put together, the support mechanism, the technical support, the peer support, all fantastic. So you don't have to be a cleaner by nature to come into SoftWash Systems, back to your original question.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, it was fantastic. Work yourself off the truck as soon as possible.
Yeah.
When I was, talking to Miranda back in those days, she said, "When are you getting off of the truck?" And I said, "I've been off the truck for 2 months, but you've only been in the business for 6.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But it was my plan from the very beginning. Somebody's got to sell this. But I needed to be on the truck. You can't be a part-time.
You got to be there for a while.
You have to.
You have to understand what you're selling.
Yes. So when I educate, like I was doing a demo to a VP of facilities for a major apartment investor group this morning. And I was talking to, he said, "Well, where does that black algae come from?" So I was explaining everything, how limestone, and it's an airborne spore, and it looks, and the way it grows, it proliferates, and, you'll find it mostly on the north side of the building. And this is why. And just being in the business on the truck and knowing how to clean things makes you a better owner and salesperson and advocating for your business.
Absolutely. Well, great conversation. Boy, you're in such a huge market in the Metroplex, and now you're over there in East Texas. Just your organic growth, just connecting those two things together right there is going to really lead you to developing a high revenuing business that lets you achieve any of your life's goals and dreams. So that's very, very cool. Great conversation. I appreciate you, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for helping me down this journey. Even today, you still help me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So, hey, listen, guys, if you're thinking about getting into the cleaning business, you could go out and buy some equipment, do it yourself, and go through and develop all of your own business systems and marketing systems and sales systems and HR systems and all that. Or you can do like Jim did here, recognize that there is a turnkey solution that accelerates you into the business, that gets you off the truck much more quickly so that you can be a business owner and enjoy the fruits of being a business owner and not have to come home smelling like bleach every day. So although the aroma of bleach is nice, it kind of smells like money, but yes. I don't want to wear it every day. And so, hey guys, if you're interested in that at all, just give us a call here at SoftWash Systems. Again, this isn't supposed to be a SoftWash Systems infomercial, but you've got great guys here like Jim that had a goal for their life and they needed a vehicle to get them there. And that was SoftWash Systems helping Jim build his lifestyle business. So thank you, Jim. And thank you for everybody for joining us today. And as always, everyone, go forth and prosper. I'll see you at the next podcast.